Sexy Fit Babes. We are here with the Fit Babe Sophie. And by the way, we are both twinning because we both have Starbucks, but we're going to talk about the Hot and Healthy membership. Sophie, tell us a little bit more about your story and what really drew you into TSN and joining this program.
Yes, of course. So last summer in 2021, I was taking my master's exams in Berkeley, and I was pretty stressed out because I was the heaviest I'd ever been following the pandemic. And I kind of had been through, I live in California, so I'd been through all of the kind of being vegan, being paleo, and then also getting a lot of takeout during the pandemic and lots of things that I thought were kind of quote unquote healthy. Cauliflower rice with like a lot of tahini sauce and all of these things. And I didn't understand why I wasn't losing weight. And in the past, I'd lost weight before in a kind of less healthy way. I'd completely cut out carbs when I was like in my late teens. And there's always like a little bit of nostalgia for that body that you used to have. But I also knew I didn't want to go back to those kind of more obsessive habits. And then, I don't know how it was, but I was on Instagram and I saw it was one of your healthy swaps actually for Starbucks.
It was probably a Starbucks swap.
Yeah, it was literally a Starbucks swap. And I was like, this lady knows. This is just like scientific, very thorough, very analytical. Like you don't ignore sugar and carbs and fat content, but you lead with the fact that calories do matter. And I think there's so many people who want to demonize that, but for someone who's been really living off the wrong information for so long, just getting back to those basics was so important. So I was definitely like following the page and listening to the podcast probably from about last September 2021.
That's amazing. And when you think about from social media, you learned obviously the importance of calories going through what I would call like, not just LA, because it's really all of California that I feel like this happens to, but the kind of like the myths and the fads that we oftentimes see out there, but really all across the country, right? And going to the place of really knowing so much more about how to fuel your body, seeing results on the scale. What would you say has been your biggest takeaway from the program that has really helped you see the success that you've had?
I think, I was thinking about this in advance. There are a couple of things in the program that make it really unique. I think the first one is how you reframe what people would see as cheat meals as fun foods, and you pepper them into people's day and you say, you can have a fun food, but like, do we need to be having fun all the time? And I think that's really interesting because like with our jobs, we know that we need like an hour or so sometimes just to de-stress, or you need to like watch TikTok for a little bit or just do something distracting. But if we did that the whole day, that would be ridiculous. But if
we would never be productive.
No, exactly. And so I think understanding that fun foods can fit, but that they shouldn't be making up the bulk of the day is super important. I think the plate method that you have is really helpful because I do find that sticking to my calories is easier when I am having a lot of protein and vegetables, but equally having that variety now and then, and like getting Chick-fil-A once in a while, whatever it is that you're craving, like that's not off limits. And so you don't have this restrictive mindset. And then I actually just think the budget. I think the fact that you have a flexible window for the calories is probably the saving grace, because there are definitely days where I need to go to the upper limit and days where I can just go through the day and maybe have a lazy day and not need that much and not feel like I need to go there. But at the same time, I'm never criticizing myself for like going over a certain number, which I think you can do if you have just like a one size fits all for your days.
Oh, absolutely. And I know you didn't overtly say this, but it's like so obvious to me as a dietitian, like your mindset is just completely changed with food too. Yeah. Like the fact that you can have this flexibility and not what I call like be an ass to yourself and like totally feel guilt and shame around it. Like, I think that's almost the biggest battle that, the tips around fun foods versus cheat meals and the range, like these are all things to help you work towards that more positive mindset around food and fueling your body. And ultimately what like diet culture and what fad diets deprive us of. But I know you didn't say this overtly, but like your biggest change, I feel like, is your mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I did the mindset quiz and I had whichever one is
Oh
like,
yeah. Which woman were you?
I think it was like the boss lady, which is funny because
The
I'm not
businesswoman.
the businesswoman, because I'm not very like aggressive, and I'm not really a boss lady in real life, but I think I am very determined because I haven't enjoyed existing in a bigger body the same way. I didn't feel flexible. I didn't feel like I could move well. I didn't like how my clothes were fitting me. I didn't feel young. Like, I'm 26, and I think that it's just like, I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be 20 pounds overweight when I'm 26, because I have my whole life to be overweight, honestly. And now
you're in your what we'd call, like, I mean, any age can be your prime, but like when you're feeling like, I'm so young, I have it all going on, I'm this smart, young, successful woman, it's like, why do I not have this body that I feel my best in, right? And it becomes really, really frustrating. But I think you're actually hitting right the nail on the head with being the businesswoman, because the businesswoman just needs a plan. Like, you just needed to be told what actually was what was going to work for you, because you followed these other things really well, but that shit didn't work, right? So I think it makes sense.
I had followed that whole, like you were saying, like wellness culture for a long time. I was eating, I had the Sakara Life meal subscription for a really long time, which is ridiculously expensive. I had it during the pandemic, and my parents were in a different country, and they were like, sure, like you should do it if this is
It's great.
Yeah, and I was a vegan, and that food is delicious, but the whole piece about, you had on the podcast about intuitive eating, and like this idea that as long as it's, clean food, you can have as much of it as you want, is just bullshit. And it left me feeling sluggish. I didn't feel better about myself. I just felt like, well, I'm eating all of this food and I don't really want it. It doesn't really appeal to me. I'm just eating it because I feel like I have to, and I can't fit those other things, which I knew I wanted to eat. But then with TSN, I just feel like I have much more flexibility to say, I am going to get ramen if I'm with a group of friends and we all want to go there. Yeah. Or like if my boyfriend cooks food for me, I can eat it. Like he often makes barbecue beef and stuff, and I can have some, it can fit. So
I love that so much. If you had a friend, family member, or just someone you met who was struggling with eating clean, not seeing progress, like feeling really deprived, not getting like the foods like barbecue or Starbucks in their plan, would you recommend the program, and specifically why?
I would absolutely recommend the program, and I have recommended the program to people, and I've sent them the podcast and kind of said, you guys need to get onto this. I think it's because, as someone who's been in the cycle of like bordering on disordered eating in the past, in whichever manifestation that was, like especially when I cut out carbs, I cut out carbs once for like 10 months. I think that counting calories is really the least obsessive of all the options, and it's the most capacious in terms of like how anyone can fit. Like, it's just basic physics, and so you can't really argue with it, is the first point. And the
People
second
do
point,
though, but it's okay.
people will, but it's also like, even if you the membership just doesn't prescribe you anything. And I think I love the fact that you're kind of like anti-meal plan in a way, because you will offer the meals, but you can say, I don't really want to eat a meal plan, and neither should you, because it's not real life. And it's like kind of awkward with your friends if you're like, oh, I'm on this very strict meal plan. And the membership just allows you to, so I've dropped 10 pounds since starting to follow the podcast in TSN. And then since I've been in TSN, like in the membership itself, I've lost about 5 of that. And I think that those were pounds I had never managed to lose, no matter what I had done. And I think it's just because it is straightforward, logical, it's very tailored to every person. And so I haven't found anything objectionable, which I think is remarkable given that diet culture is so saturated with like negative messaging.
That's so amazing, Sophie. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.